The Vikings, a very common name for a tribe from the ancient times, but who are they really?
Where were they settled? And what have they done to be remembered all over the world for all that time?
That's what we're going to know in this video. Contrary to some popular conceptions of the Vikings, they were not a race linked by ties of common ancestry or patriotism,
and could not be defined by any particular sense of Viking-ness.
Most of the Vikings whose activities are best known come from the areas now known as Denmark, Norway and Sweden,
though there are mentions in historical records of Finnish, Estonian and Sami Vikings as well.
Their common ground and what made them different from the European peoples they confronted was that they came from a foreign land. They were not civilized, in the local understanding of the word, and most importantly they were not Christian. In A.D. 793, an attack on the Lindisfarne monastery off the coast of Northumberland in northeastern England marked the beginning of the Viking Age. The culprits, probably Norwegians who sailed directly across the North Sea, did not destroy the monastery completely, but the attack shook the European religious world to its core.
Unlike other groups,
these strange new invaders had no respect for religious institutions such as the monasteries, which were often left unguarded and vulnerable near the shore. 2 years later, Viking raids struck the undefended island monasteries of Skye and Iona in the Hebrides, as well as Rathlin, off the northeast coast of Ireland. The first recorded raid in continental Europe came in 799. At the island monastery of St. Philibberts on Neumautia, near the estuary of the Loire River. For several decades, the Vikings confined themselves to hit-and-run raids against coastal targets in the British Isles, particularly Ireland and Europe. The trading centre of Dorestad, 80 kilometers from the North Sea, became a frequent target after 830. They then took advantage of internal conflicts in Europe to extend their activity further inland. After the death of Louis the Pious, Emperor of Francia, modern-day France and Germany, in 840, his son Lothar actually invited the support of a Viking fleet in a power struggle with brothers. Before long, other Vikings realized that Frankish rulers were willing to pay them rich sums to prevent them from attacking their subjects, making Francia an irresistible target for further Viking activity. By the mid-9th century, Ireland, Scotland and England had become major targets for Viking settlement as well as raids. Vikings gained control of the northern Isles of Scotland, Shetland and the Orkneys, the Hebrides and much of mainland Scotland. They founded Ireland's first trading towns: Dublin, Waterford, Wexford, Wicklow and Limerick, and used their base on the Irish coast to launch attacks within Ireland and across the Irish Sea to England. When King Charles the Bald began defending West Francia more energetically in 862, fortifying towns, abbeys, rivers and coastal areas, Viking forces began to concentrate more on England than Francia. In the wave of Viking attacks in England after 851, only one kingdom, Wessex, was able to successfully resist. Viking armies, mostly Danish, conquered East Anglia and Northumberland and dismantled Mercia. While in 871 King Alfred the Great of Wessex became the only king to decisively defeat a Danish army in England. Leaving Wessex, the Danes settled to the north, in an area known as Danelaw. Many of them became farmers and traders and established York as a leading mercantile city. In the first half of the 10th century,
English armies led by the descendants of Alfred of Wessex began reconquering Scandinavian areas of
England. The last Scandinavian king, Eric Bloodaxe, was expelled and killed around 952, permanently uniting English into one kingdom. Meanwhile, Viking armies remained active on the European continent throughout the 9th century, brutally sacking Nantes, on the French coast, in 842 and attacking towns as far inland as Paris, Limoges, Orleans, Tours and Nîmes. In 844, Vikings stormed Seville, then controlled by the Arabs. In 859, they plundered Pisa, though an Arab fleet battered them on the way back north. In 911, the West Frankish king granted Rouen and the surrounding territory by treaty to a Viking chief, called Rollo, in exchange for the latter's denying passage to the Seine to other raiders. This region of northern France is now known as Normandy, or Land of the Northmen. Quote, in the 9th century, Scandinavians, mainly Norwegians, began to colonize Iceland, an island in the North Atlantic where no one had yet settled in large numbers. By the late 10th century, some Vikings, including the famous Eric the Red, moved even further westward, to Greenland. According to later Icelandic histories, some of the early Viking settlers in Greenland, supposedly led by the Viking hero Leif Erikson, son of Eric the Red,
may have become the first Europeans to discover and explore North America.
Calling their landing place Vinland, Wine Land, they built a temporary settlement at Lanceo Meadows in modern-day Newfoundland. Beyond that, there is little evidence of Viking presence in the New World, and they didn't form permanent settlements.